I'm Violet. This is Violet Tries Panning. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be looking at 5 palettes that I love the cover art for, but the color story just isn't there for me, doesn't speak to me, or is downright boring. So, let's see what those are. The whole idea of this video came about because I was watching a video and this person was using the Alter Ego Daylight palette, and they were holding up just clothes, of course, so you could see the cover art, and I was like, wow, that is really pretty. And then they started to open it up and use it, and I was like, okay. I immediately lost interest. Very serene. I love seeing nature on palettes. I love when they're inspired by Mother Earth and, you know, incorporating fall or spring or whatever sort of like scenery there is out there. This has a beautiful, like, view of some trees, I guess in like a forest or something, and it just looks very nice and calm. And I guess that I was expecting a little bit different from the color story, because when you look at it inside the palette, there's a whole bunch of shimmers, which I don't mind. But it's just very like, it's very underwhelming. And I don't want an overwhelming palette either, but I do want a balance. I don't think that they really incorporated some of the blues that was on the cover. I wish they had kind of, you know, incorporated some of those like slate or like dusty blues in here. I don't really get like a pinky shade. There's just a lot of subdued, less toned down shadows, which is nice for those of you who like it. And I'm not saying that this palette is always have to be for me, or every palette has to be for me, because it's not. It doesn't have to be that way, and I'm totally fine. But I don't know. I was very let down. Like, I just don't see the correlation between the cover, the color story, and the shades are just they look too soft for me. The next palette, that the cover art is very interesting. It's very artistic. It's very like, almost looks like it's painted or it belongs on like a museum somewhere. It's from Melt. It's called 27. Now, I don't know the story behind this palette. I don't know what prompted them to make it. I don't know all of that details. I'm merely going off of, I see the cover art. What does it look inside? Do I see what matches up? Do I like it? No? Okay, let's talk about it. But for me, I don't get 27. I don't know what that was supposed to reference or what. You can let me know. But when it opens it up, browns, reds, oranges, is that really exciting anymore of having a full palette of just those colors? I think it would have been nice to see maybe a little bit of yellow or that like goldy yellow pulled in here, because on the cover there is that sort of like orangey, goldy sort of color. I think it would have been nice to see like maybe a little bit brighter red or like an orangey red sort of color. I think it would have been cool to see maybe a more deeper brown, not so much like 2 different tones of brown. I guess just me, I'm personally just tired of looking at this type of color story that I just like, Another palette, actually it's 3 palettes from the same brand, but I'll just kind of talk about 2 because I didn't pull up the 3rd one, but I did remember seeing these in a story from Essence. This one's the Halo Berlin, and then the Salute Paris palettes. There also is one more, it's called Bonjour Montreal. But I saw these in stores because the cover art was beautiful. I was like, oh, that's so cool to have like a city themed palette, especially the Paris one, because Paris is one city I would love to visit, so that's kind of near and dear to my heart. But then you open up the palette and it's just like flat. It doesn't really scream excitement, at least for me. I think that they're very like basic, boring colors. And I mean, does it somewhat match the cover? Kind of. I think they could have, I don't know if they were trying to go like maybe moody with this, or keep it on like that dark element sort of feel. But to me, it's just, I don't think that there's many possibilities with this. I don't think that there's many excitement coming out of here. Same with the Paris one. No offense, and I don't mean any disrespect to Sydney Grace, but this palette looks very much like a Sydney Grace palette. Her palettes also bore me. They're very like natural, subdued, on the lesser scale of like pigment, I guess. At least in my opinion, that you're not really gonna get a very like, I guess, intense look like this, or very much like more vibrant sort of appearance to your shadows. This is more of like a softer, more like calmer palette than anything out there. But yeah, just these 2, and plus the other one, Oh, it's a big old yawn for me. The next palette is from Unearthly. This one's called the Not Normal palette. When I look at the cover, I think it's cool. I think I like the pigtails. I like the whole witchiness of this character. I like the artwork is beautifully done. I guess just judging by that alone, I expect, you know, maybe some pinks, some purples, maybe like a black, you know, something of that sort. And then I also too think, what's not normal? Well, maybe some unexpected colors that you don't think would go together, and that does make a cool look, which you could go very much all different directions in. And then you open up the palette and it just looks very also flat. It doesn't look exciting. Now, I have seen a bunch of gorgeous looks from this palette, but every single time that I see this being listed secondhand for sale, it just doesn't get me. I'm always fooled. I'm like, oh, cool cover, and then I forget whenever I click on the listing and they open it up and I'm like, nope, that's why I didn't like it. But, I mean, there is purples, there is greens, there's browns, and a gold. And it's like, I don't know. I don't see the excitement. I don't see how this is not normal. And again, I don't know this backstory to this, but I don't see the correlation between the two. I don't understand what they were trying to do with this one or where they were trying to go with it. But yeah, it's just green and purple. It honestly is kind of a normal combination. Doesn't feel like it's not normal. So I don't know. To me, I'm just not getting it. This is not for me, and that is okay. And the second to last palette is the ColourPop Twilight palette. Okay, when I was in middle school, I think middle school to about high school, I was a huge Twilight lover, I will admit. And to this day, I still get a kick out of watching the movies. I think I've since sold all of my Twilight books, so I cannot reread them as even if I wanted to. But anything Twilight related is very nostalgia. It's very like, oh, I have vivid memories in my head about this. So when I heard this release, I was like, whoa, that is so cool. I hope that they take some, you know, inspiration from Edward being a vampire and Jacob being a wolf, and then the very like rainy, moody, deep place that they filmed in. I forgot the location, but I know it's like an actual location. And I just think that, you know, since they're spending time in the forest, that they would incorporate some like moody greens. And then you open it up and you get this. And it's like, I think they could have done a little different. They missed the mark a little bit, I think, in my opinion. The cover is just, it's Twilight, because it is very much overlooking the meadow or the forest area, the trees. That's very prominent in Twilight, and it's very much a focal point in the movie. And also in the books, of course, because it is based on books. But just looking at this, there definitely is subdued tones in here. I would have liked to see maybe some of the shimmers turn into maybe a little bit of a red tone. I would have very much liked to see a like black gray matte, not a full black, but one that leans a little bit more gray into it. I definitely would have liked to see a little bit more gray tones or gray undertones. I definitely would have liked to see a little bit more reds, maybe a little bit more greens, just a little bit more versatility, I think, for a Twilight palette. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't think that it really screams Twilight for me personally. This one was very controversial too, because a lot of people saying, well, it does fit the movie, and others are saying it doesn't, and I'm one of those who disagrees. And the last palette is from Beauty Bay, and this one's called the New Mood palettes. Now, what is a new mood? Like, how do you go about creating a color story for that? That was sitting in my head. I was like, new mood, new mood. The color story also confuses me too. I see like the section of blues that go together. I see the little like 6-pan on the far left that kind of goes a very like everyday brown sort of typical look. And then I'm like, the bright pink, the like salmony pink, and the next one almost looks like a deeper tone of that one. And then we have a really neon green, and we have a shimmer, and we have a bright yellow. And I'm like, what are we doing, Beauty Bay? I don't understand the title. I don't understand, like, the cover art is, sorry, my neighbors decided to be obnoxious. But yeah, the cover art is very, like, colorful. It's a very, like, painted almost, watercolor, so it very much reminds me of, like, artists. So I guess in that sense, I was expecting a little bit more, I guess not colorful, but I guess like, you know, like someone's painting in a museum, kind of represent that into a palette, so to speak. So the name, the cover, the color story, it's all a little mess for me, so I don't, again, I don't quite get it. Those are all of the palettes. I know there's definitely more out there, but those are the top 5 in my head I can think of. Are there any palettes to you that you like the color cover of, but the color story just doesn't make sense to you? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and hope you have an awesome rest of your day and or week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye, guys.